In this video, we're going to start looking into the C++ code. So that would be kind of your tour of the C++ project. So we're going to explore actually the structure of the project from a C++ side, and then we're going to look a little bit more into everything that compose kind of the classes in Unreal Engine in the CPP side. So we're going to look at the header, kind of see what's in that file and what's important and what you need to know. And then we're going to see the integration with the actual blueprint system. And we're going to create our own BP that inherits from our class and see how to show kind of variables that we declare in CPP into that blueprint file. Let's get started. Now let's go in our editor. We're going to look into how Unreal Engine and a project is structured. So when you open the solution, you're going to have two projects. One is going to be your game and the other one is going to be the engine. If we open our project, you're going to find the UPROPERTY file that is at the root of your of the folder that contains your project in the Explorer. If you open it, you're going to see it's a simple JSON object that declares some attributes. So you have file version, engine association, and one of the important one is the modules and plugins. So whenever you declare a module in your UPROPERTY file, you're expected that there's a folder that is named Tour of Unreal Engine inside your source directory. So if I go inside, I have that. So good. So he knows now that this is a module. The thing that's going to make it able to use the module is that build file. So whenever the build happen, he's going to look and compile all the module that your UPROPERTY depends on. So Tour of Unreal Engine is our dependency here. So we're going to go ahead and go into this. And he's going to find that file and he's going to want to build this. And to build this, he's going to go through all our dependencies. So as you can see, core UObject, engine, input core, and hence input are also modules. The way Unreal Engine is built is it's built using modules. So if we go into the engine, let's search for the engine module. We're going to go in engine, we're going to go in a source, runtime, and then let's find engine. There it is. So in that engine, you have also a build file, which kind of lists all the things that this module needs to function. So basically, that's how it works. In Unreal Engine, you get in your game only what you use, okay? So if I use core, I'm going to get core plus all the dependencies of core UObject plus all the dependencies of the UObject, and it's going to be like that for all our dependencies. So that's pretty cool because you only get at the end whatever you actually need, so whatever you actually use. So yeah, in your UPROPERTY, we're going to see it later. So module is an array. We can declare other modules. We just need one that's going to be like our game module, but we can include other module here. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some files in our project. So we're going to go and start with the Tour of Unreal Engine character.h. So this class is there because we started with a template. You're not always going to have those classes, but that template, especially since it was C++, had some C++ files for us to start. So let's go and look into the other files. At the top, you're going to find a copyright. This is configurable in the editor, and it's going to be included whenever from the editor you generate a class. The pragma ones, which is going to be guard you from including multiple time the same header files, so that's a guard there. The core minimal, which you're always going to find, mostly always going to find at the top there. It declares some core types. If you go inside it, you see like core types. Low level includes forward declaration, commonly used headers. So it's just something that you're always going to include at the top here. Now the character and macro are for this class specifically because we inherit from a character and we declare a log category. The last one of the include is always going to be the generated file. So it's always going to be the same structure. It's going to be the name of your class minus the prefix with .generated.h. So this is because Unreal Engine has its own build system that runs before the C++ one. So that build system has the editor tool and the build tool. So the editor tool is here, and it generates this, which is a bunch of stuff that kind of helps you kind of helps you integrate with the engine better. So like you're gonna have a lot of stuff like static class functions that is just for every UObject. It's gonna register you with the reflection system, and there's going to be a ton of feature that you're going to get from that generated.h. So we always include it last in the include list. Now, if we continue here, you have a bunch of forward declaration, and here you have your first, well, second, but the first important macro, uClass. So uClass is declared just above a class declaration, a C++ class declaration, and it basically registers this class to be part of the reflection system and also the memory management system. So that just basically means that this class can be used in the editor. Here we have some specifier that you can pass to those macros, and this one says that there's some that this class has a config into the game config. So the config is here, and in the game.ini, it just means that it should look here for a configuration. Right now it doesn't have any, but we could put a configuration here and it would automatically register with this class. Now this is a basic C++ class declaration. You have the class keyword, the name of the class. We have the prefix here that is you have tour of Unreal Engine character.cpp, but it's a tour of Unreal Engine character.cpp. That's because we we need the prefix for Unreal to recognize this as the correct class. And since we're inheriting from something with an A, which means it's an actor, it can go inside a level, then we need to put the same prefix. Now we have a second one, which is the generated body. It's going to generate a bunch of method and stuff like that, again, to work with Unreal. You don't really have to worry about it. Mainly, if you're declaring a class, it's going to be used in the editor. You put the uClass and you put the generated body. That config is totally optional. You could have it like this if you don't need any config in there. Yeah. So now after that generated body, they're declaring some actual variables. So those variables, we're going to go and look a little bit more in depth into it, because those are going to be really the one you're going to declare the most to have them show in the editor. So we have a UPROPERTY. So that means that this is a property that should be registered again with the reflection system and the memory management system. And inside the parenthesis, you have specifiers that tells the editor how to interact with this this variable. So here we have visible anywhere, meaning that you should be able to see it in the editor. Blueprint read only means you should be able to read the value of that variable in a blueprint, and then some categories where it's gonna show up, and some meta to add some functionality to it. We're not gonna go into all of these. We're gonna mainly concentrate on those ones, because those are the one you're gonna see a lot and use a lot. So let's go. So as you see here, declare spring arm component that we have seen. So that's basically kind of a selfie stick that you hold the camera, you put the camera at the end. It's really useful for third-person characters. So you have another one here, a camera component, which is also UPROPERTY. You have the same type of specifier for it. And then here we have a default input mapping context. So this is coming from the enhanced input system. We're going to see it a little bit more in depth, but that's basically saying like this is the default mapping context for this character. So whenever we set up the input for that character, we're going to see it later, but we're going to enable that default mapping context. And here we have some new specifier. We have edit anywhere. So edit anywhere is a specifier you use if you want to be able to edit this in the blueprint, and also edit this on an instance in the level. So basically you can really edit it anywhere, and it has a blueprint read only, so you cannot edit it in the blueprint, but you can edit the default value in a blueprint, and but you cannot, the blueprint read only here is only for the graph part. So whenever we connect those nodes, then that would be a read only. We cannot override it, but in the details panel you could edit it. So that's good to know. The combination of this is really more for you to control where and how you want this value to be edited. There's some things like that make sense only to be edited for on the instance, and other that are going to be only for the defaults, because whenever you're in game, you don't want that value to change. So we're going to see a lot of those, and we're going to see how they change as a behavior in the engine, in the editor. Yeah, so here you have that, and basically here it's the same for all the other ones. Here, this is an important part. You have scope. This is how C++ work. You in C# you would put, in Unity you would put public, void, and then the function name. But here you do it in blocks. So here I could put float age of the character, and then put it as a UPROPERTY, so I can edit it. Let's say default only, and blueprint read only. And let's go with the category. Whoops. Custom data. Okay, so now I've declared something, and it is public, meaning what it means public in every language, meaning like if I have an instance of the tour of Unreal Engine character in another class, then I can access this one. By the way, it's capital letter. That's the convention here in Unreal. And then by default, you're going to have a it's not, I don't think it's by default, but when you generate the class by the editor, you're going to have a constructor. There's multiple type of constructor, but usually this one is enough. Protected here, so we have a couple of protected things, so we can only access in child and in this class. Here we repeat the protected for other methods, and this is something like you're going to see a lot. Those block section comes with kind of a downside to it. It's really up to your preference how you organize this. You can organize it by from what I kind of see is this protected is for internal, like user created, the one that were custom to this object, and those ones are kind of overrides, virtual function that are override. So I feel like that's how they do it, but you're gonna have to come up with a convention. There's tons of them online. I personally prefer to have like one block of each type, and I put like all my properties at the top, and then my public function at the bottom, and then protected variable, protected function. I prefer to have that like that, but you're free to do whatever you want. And then we have some inline function. Those are kind of like your properties accessor when you were in Unity, where you would kind of do this for camera boom. You would kind of do camera boom get set, like in like this. You would do like get set. This is kind of the same thing. It's an inline declaration of a getter. Here it's get, and here too. So that's mostly it. Like it's an inline function. There's nothing more to it. So yeah, so that's basically what a header file looks like. We're gonna play a lot with those, so don't worry if you're not understanding everything right now, because all of those components are things you learn as you go, which component does what. But they're all tools that Unreal has created for you to use to create your own game. Now let's go ahead and launch the editor. So I'm going to go ahead and run. You can do the start for Visual Studio. So this is going to build the editor, and it's going to launch the editor. And we're going to see here, we declared our custom property, and it should appear now in our tour of Unreal Engine character. So right now, the way it's set up in the editor is that we have a blueprint of the character. So blueprint can inherit from C++ class, and that those properties are going to then appear in the editor, in the blueprint. So you're going to see also the distinction. Some of them are going to say edit in C++, and other are going to say that are not going to have that mentioned. That means that they're not coming from the C++ file. They've been added to the blueprint by hand, like with the little hat drop down. So let's go. We're going to compile the project and launch the editor. Now that the editor is open, I can go in third person, blueprint, third person character, and if I go in my BP third person character here, I can see at the top that it's parent class is my character class. So if here I type custom data, which is a category I've put on my in my UPROPERTY, then I have age here in the custom data, and I can put anything I want. So I can edit it here. That's because in here I've put that this UPROPERTY is edit default only, blueprint read write, and category custom data. So then if I go back to the engine here, I should not be able to do set age. You see, it's not gonna show me a function to set the age because I said that you cannot set it through Blueprint. And it's the same thing if I go into, let's go in here in the turn map and I drag and drop my character. I go in here and I type custom data. I will not be able to see it because I am not allowed to modify an instance, only the default the default instance. So yeah, that's basically it for the UPROPERTY. So those are going to be things we're going to see more, and then we're going to put it into practice right now by recreating kind of the game we had here with the platform, but from a C++ class. So let's create our first C++ class. We're going to go in the C++ classes here. There's multiple ways to create a class in Unreal Engine. You can create it from the editor, but you can obviously also create it from your code editor. But I'm just going to show you this one for now, and we're gonna get to see the other way later. So now you can go into as I said, C++ class, your tour of Unreal, and then you can do new C++ class. So here you have to choose a parent class. Since for us that platform is going to live inside the level, we want it to be an actor. So now character is an actor, a pawn is an actor is obviously an actor, but a pawn is something that can receive input from a controller, and that's clearly not what we want, and a character has the ability to walk around. So for us, it's mainly the most basic thing you can place in the level, and it's an actor. So we're going to do actor as a base class. Here we're going to name our class, so we're going to say it's platform. Let's go with platform. Platform.h already exists. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. So we're going to go with moving platform. Here you can put the path where you want to store it. Right now I'm going to leave it at the root because this is anyway kind of a throwaway project, so I don't want right now to bother with that. So moving platform, we're in it from the A actor. You can use like public, private to kind of separate the header file and the source file into different folders. But right now we're just going to keep it as is. So let's go and create a class. So this will move you to your editor, your code editor, and it's going to open, hopefully, the classes you just created. So for us, it's the moving platform. So as you can see, it compiles a lot of stuff, and then it kind of goes back to your code editor. For me, it goes kind of back and forth because while you're creating that class, the Unreal Editor kind of hot reload, which is live coding, it's named live coding in UE5, is running to kind of compile that new class that itself it generated and add it available in the editor. So that way you don't have to close the editor, recompile your code, and then access that class in the editor. So that live coding feature is there for that. So I had a little crash with live coding. So that's a thing that can happen. You're going to see a lot of back and forth online about live coding. Some like it, some just avoid it completely because it can cause some crashes. But for my crash, I just closed my editor, reopened it, and then it was working. So on my side, it's no big deal, but just be aware that if it happened, close your editor, and then you, by reopening it, you should be able to continue. It works for me a lot of the time when I work on other projects, but if errors happen, I just close the editor, close the project, and then reopen it, and usually it's all right. Okay, so we have our moving platform. So cool. So as you see here, it generated some of the things that we already saw in the character header. So we have our car minimal, our actor, because we're inheriting from actor, and our generated file. We have our class. This is our API. You don't really have to, it's the name of the project _ API. You don't really, it's always going to be there for your project. We're going to see a little bit more in depth later, but for now, don't worry about it. The name of our platform, it automatically added the A prefix because I'm an A actor. So, okay, here we're going to be able to start adding our custom variables. So our platform had two main variables. One was a stop point and the other one was a mesh. So let's declare these two variables. So we're going to go and say we have a UPROPERTY because we want to edit that in the editor. For the stop point, we're going to want to edit anywhere. So we want, and in fact, not edit anywhere, edit instance only, because that endpoint, that stop point only makes sense in terms of where it is in the level. It doesn't really make sense in the prefab, which is a blueprint, but it doesn't really make sense to edit it in the blueprint. It really is when I place my platform there, I want to edit the stop point. We can say blueprint read only because we don't want anyone to modify that stop point, I think, in the code. For now, and I'd say, like, as a good practice, it's good to say put things read only on and modify them if you need to. And we're going to go and put a category, which is, let's put it in the platform. So we're going to get all our settings into that platform. So that stop point was a component. It was a uScene component. So we're going to go and say uScene component pointer and stop point. Just know that this variable naming is only for the code. Whenever we actually add it to the object to show it in the editor, we're going to give it a name. So since we're in a header file and we need its file to be able to compile, we need to know what is the uScene component. Usually, you're going to be able to just do what we call a forward declaration. So we're going to do that right now. We're just going to say for the compiler class, uScene component, it exists, don't worry about it. So the compiler is not going to throw any error here. We had another one, which was, we're going to put as a UPROPERTY 2, and it was the actual mesh. This one, we could say that it's edit default only. You could decide that you want to edit the instance if you want to have like different type of platform and stuff like that. So for us right now, we're going to put that at edit default only. And also, the same, read only for the blueprint, and the category is also going to be platform. That way it's kind of easy to find all our things. So this one is going to be a uStatic mesh component. So this is to have, yeah, as it says, a static mesh, to add a static mesh to an actor, and we called it mesh. Here. It's the same thing. For the compiler to be happy, uStatic needs to be known, but we don't include in the header file whenever we can. Only this one because like we need information on the class in order to figure out the inheritance part. But this one, we don't actually use it in here, so we can forward declare it. And there we go. Now we have specified those variables, and now we're going to need to go in the constructor and kind of create the default instance of this and attach it to our actor. To do that, let's go into our constructor. So in the constructor, you're going to initialize your object. That constructor, just be aware, is going to run when the editor opens. So that means that that's how it gets added to the blueprint. So here you really want to put stuff that are only relevant, that can also be relevant in the editor and not in the game. So anything that is relevant only in game would go into the begin play. Okay, so here we want to do we want to define those things. So stop point equals, and we can do CreateDefaultSubobject. We're passing, it's a template function, so we need a type of stop point, which is a uScene component. And here you pass in the name of the object, and that's how it's going to appear in the editor. So for that, we have a text macro. That macro kinds of helps with using string in a different context of the editor. You're going to see that macro a lot. Usually that it helps you create an F name. So if you go into here, that one requires you to have an F name. If you go in here, it needs an F name. So text returns an F name. So here, how it happens, how it appears in the editor, we're still going to call it stop point, but you could put anything else in here. Now, we're going to say here we need to attach it to something. So stop point, every actor has a root component, setup attachment and root component. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to go with the other one, the mesh. Mesh equals CreateDefaultSubobject, static mesh component, and we're going to call it mesh. Oops, sorry. There you go. And then in here, we can do mesh the setup attachment to also the root component. Now, depending on the depending on which type of class of component you're using, you might have some errors, because in here we're creating a default object, so we're kind of using the object to create the default of it, but this file doesn't know about this type. It happens to know about it because, like, deep down in this, and then if you go into actor, at some point in that hierarchy here, I don't know where, it has a lot of stuff. It's kind of defined somewhere. So in here we know about it. But usually the good practice is to just be more be specific with your includes. Always be put them, because like if you happen to remove something somewhere and then that include is not there anymore, then you're going to get a crash. So it's better to just include it. So here it's in component, scene component, and then here we have include again in components, and then static mesh components. So always states your include whenever you use in a CPP file. It's mostly needed whenever you want to call a function. It's just because, like, to call a function on it, we need to know the definition of the class. Okay, so now we have that set up. So those ones are going to appear in the editor. So let's go see that. Now, once we're in the editor, let's go ahead and create our blueprint class. So here, when you create a blueprint class, you're going to get all those common parents that you would pick. But now we have our own moving platform. Moving platform. So we're going to select that one, and we're going to call it BP moving platform. So we have our platform, which is the one we did in blueprint, and this one, the moving platform, is the one we've declared with our CPP class. So if you go in there, we set them as to be able to edit them. So here I can select the mesh. But you're gonna start seeing a couple of stuff. So here, like, it doesn't work, like it doesn't show. But if I save it, close it, and then reopen it, it's gonna be there. Okay, not so much, not a big deal. Okay, so let's continue. You're gonna see it's part of a bigger problem, and we're gonna see what it is. So we can do this, and we're gonna say we're gonna scale it. We're going to scale it on that side. 2.9 was the size of our previous platform. I'm going to compile it, close it, and now I'm back in the editor. And now I want to place my platform right here. Okay, so now I want to move it. Oh, it doesn't actually happen because it has kind of it's lucky that it didn't happen, but it's something you can see, like sometimes whenever, like, the constructor doesn't run properly because of something we did on the CPP file. So one of the things that I wanted to show you, and that didn't happen, but for you it might happen, is that here sometimes you're going to drag and drop and you're going to see that your cube is at 0, 0. And then whenever you move this, the cube actually doesn't move. And it's true now, but it's only for our stop point. So if I go here, and I move that's my mesh, in fact. But let's delete that one. I just want to make sure I move the right one. So if I go in here and I move the parent, you're going to see, like, my stop point is not at all where it should be. And if I select here, I can move this, but then my stop point doesn't move. So let's go back into Writer and see why this happens. So in here, you're going to see that one of the things that is really important when you're setting up your component is that root component, if you're not specific with what it should be, it's gonna select one randomly, and somewhere in those log, there you go, you see it. BP has natively added scene component, but none of them were set as the actor's root, so it's picking one arbitrarily. So that's not exactly the feature that we want. So usually you'd want to set specifically which one is the root component. In our case, the root component should be our mesh. So what we're going to do is make sure you put the mesh at the top, which I've already moved around. And then instead of setup component, we're going to do root component equals mesh component. There you go. Now, whenever you modify the actual constructor, you should go ahead and restart the editor, because more often than not, it's going to have some problem with the live coding part. I just usually go ahead and restart the editor. And since like the editor is not really a long thing to launch, I usually prefer to just restart it and make sure that everything is clean, that I start from a clean state. So it's already launched. So let's go in the editor. So now we have this BB platform. If you open it again, now we see that the mesh is the root editor instead of like a default component, and then the stop point is there, meaning like if I put it in there, then you're going to see that here I have my moving, I have my mesh, and then I have my stopping point. So no matter where I move my actor, I'm going to select it here to make sure I move the actor. Here, the stop point and everything is going to move, but I can still move this and then go ahead here and move my actor. So this is the basic of our platform, which I now see is really big. So we're going to go and address that in the next one. But we're going to stop here. And in the next video, we should be able to start adding new features. And there it is for our introduction to C++ in Unreal Engine. As you see, there's a lot of things that overlaps from the classes we looked at the beginning and the one we created ourselves. So none of that should be any surprise to you anymore. And we're just going to build up more and more comprehension of the engine. And that little constructor root component thing is one of them that you kind of have to get used to it and get it into your workflow. But once you have it, it gets pretty intuitive to work with the engine and jump in between that CPP and blueprint system. So with that, we start kind of modeling our object, our platform as now variable declared in CPP. And in the next video, we're going to be able to kind of add our functionality that we had it in the blueprint graph, but do it into our CPP class. If you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.